Fuck the Streets. A critical analysis of hip hop, economics, and the destruction of the black community infrastructure by Kevin David Mail II. Erie Life, Health, and Surety. Power to the people. January 2026. Introduction. What's really happening? Let's talk about rappers saying fuck the streets in 2025. What I'm monitoring here is a convergence. Bars falling left and right, alcohol sales at a 90-year low, and successful black artists publicly denouncing the very infrastructure that built them. These aren't separate trends. They're connected symptoms of a complete social infrastructure collapse that's hitting black communities the hardest. This isn't about rap beef or changing drinking habits. What this is about is what happens when the people who benefit from the community infrastructure the most turn their backs on it, offering nothing in exchange at the exact moment when physical third spaces are disappearing and being replaced by AI-generated fakeness and doom-scrolling isolation. Let's break down what's actually happening. Part 1, the origin story. Fuck the streets. How it started. From the best of what I could tell, it started with some sort of conversation between Young Thug and 21 Savage. I don't know the full context, I encourage anybody to divest from hip-hop gossip. It's just a toilet of sadness. I just remember they spoke and then 21 Savage apologized and said, "I love you, bro. It's us. And a little bit later, he tweeted, "Fuck the streets." That line got echoed by Pooh Shiesty, G Herbo, YFN Lucci, and Young Thug. Pretty much some of the most deeply ingrained individuals in the streets that I've ever seen. There's not one person on that list that hasn't served some serious Fed time for murder, conspiracy, or some sort of connection to a murderer. Literally, not one person who said, fuck the streets, isn't deeply implicated in the very violence that they're now denouncing. They're all murderers. They're all thugs. And now they're saying, fuck the streets. Backlash. Part 2. Glasses Malone, the West Coast OG. Glasses Malone kept it simple. The streets made all these clowns millionaires. Laughing emojis. Lil Zay Osama goes deeper. He provided one of the first conscious and well thought out responses to, what's supposed to be an easy thing to agree with. The streets made y'all niggas who y'all is today, and all y'all niggas glorify the streets. A lot of you niggas put on a street persona for so long, and all these so-called street niggas is riding now. It's fuck the streets. The streets got it bad, and it's good niggas saying fuck the streets to defend another wannabe street nigga. I don't respect it. If I see you dick-sucking ass Chicago rappers saying fuck the streets, you niggas might just as corny as I thought y'all was for real. Because a lot of y'all niggas wasn't street anyways. It was nigga around you. 100 emoji. And note, these are direct quotes from Lil Zay Osama's response. I'm transmitting them exactly as stated to preserve the authenticity. I don't agree with or necessarily reflect the views that I transmit. This was one of the first responses that went beyond surface level outrage. We grew up with the ideology that the streets are bad, fuck the streets. And in many ways, divesting from such a destructive culture would be a good thing. It's true. But when people are saying fuck the streets, They're not saying the bad parts of the streets. Let's be honest. 21 Savage, Young Thug, G Herbo, and Pooh Shiesty, literally all of them, made their careers glorifying violence and criminality, profiting from the worst stereotypes while making their communities less safe and far worse. They made the streets a much worse place to live after they left them. And here's Boosie's response that he had probably the most mature take. Lil Boosie hit them with a balanced reflection on this entire situation. If a rapper gonna say fuck the streets, y'all need to stop rapping about them. Stop double dipping. Rap about fruits, college courses, and staying about the streets. If you from the streets shaped you into the man you are today. Your mindset, your hustle, and your institution come from the streets. Your support came from the streets. Yes, I want every kid to make it out the streets, but that's what we all want. But I'm never saying fuck the streets. They're responsible for our success. Don't forget that every successful independent record label started from the streets. All your music started from the streets. Your baby mama, you met her in the streets. So if it's fuck the streets, then don't rap about them. Simple as that. Show the world and the fans how good of an artist y'all is and take the streets about y'all vocabulary. I want to hear it. And Boosie pointed that out is the fundamental hypocrisy. You can't selectively benefit from something for decades, profit from it enormously, and then publicly condemn them when it's convenient, at least without providing an alternative. Part 3, what the streets actually represent. Eric Lil Chipmunk Decatur, a warning shaped by history. To understand why fuck the streets is so offensive, you need to understand what the streets actually were. Consider the story of Eric Maestro Decatur, known as Little Chipmunk or Chip. A young boy coming of age in South Los Angeles during the late 1980s and early 1990s, a period marked by economic instability, job loss, and disinvestment in so many black communities. With limited opportunities and support, the streets often became a substitute for stability and belonging. Remembered in street history is a member of the 83 Hoover Criminals. Eric was killed as a teenager. His life reflects how poverty and structural neglect narrowed his choices early, cutting short futures before they could fully form. Not a legend, just a name, a life, and a warning shaped by history. And this is what the streets actually represent: a response to structural abandonment, a substitute for legitimate opportunity, a survival mechanism born from systemic neglect. When 21 Savage says, fuck the streets, he's essentially saying, fuck Eric. Fuck the kids currently in Eric's position. Fuck the structural conditions that created the streets. Fuck providing alternatives. I got mine. Fuck you. Good luck with yours. Part 4, the 21 Savage situation, an uncomfortable timeline. Let's examine a troubling timeline that deserves careful consideration. The timeline. 2015, Bankroll Refresh releases Money X4, featuring the lines, Nigga who knew to Atlanta. Nigga, I grew in Atlanta. Nigga, you flew to Atlanta. And then March 4th, 2016, Bankroll Fresh, born Trentavious Zaman White, is shot and killed at the Street Exec Studio in Atlanta by Mendez No Plug Owens. The case is later ruled as a self-defense, with Police determining that Bankroll shot first. No charges filed. Ooh, that's sickening. 2016, shortly after the killing, 21 Savage publicly defends No Plugs in interviews, calling him his brother, states that they own real estate together, appears on stage with No Plug in video footage, laughing and celebrating what many interpreted as making light of Fresh's death. And he releases No Heart, which includes 21 Savage imitating Bankroll Fresh's voice saying, "Savage, I was just playing," while rapping over Bankroll Fresh's beats and mimicking his flow, widely viewed as disrespectful. February 2019. ICE arrests 21 Savage during a traffic stop, revealing that Shia bin Abraham Joseph was actually born in the UK and immigrated to Atlanta as a child. He literally flew to Atlanta. This was not public knowledge until this arrest. 21's public persona had always been from Atlanta and Decatur. 2022. 21 Savage admits regret in an interview. "I ain't gonna lie, man. Rest in peace, Bankroll. I was on some young, dumb, just talking too much shit when that shit happened. I reached out and tried to fix the shit, like, right after that happened, but niggas already felt how they felt, and I understood it, so I felt bad. But I knew I was wrong for speaking on that type of shit because it definitely didn't have nothing to do with me, really." Right. 2024 to 2025. 21 Savage tweets, "Fuck the streets." Later, after clarifying he meant save the streets after receiving backlash. The connection is uncomfortable but impossible to ignore. Whether Bankroll Fresh had street-level knowledge about 21's immigration status years before it became public, or whether this was the most damning coincidence in hip-hop history, the fact remains. The man who rapped "You Flew to Atlanta" was killed by 21's close friend. 21 celebrated it publicly and mocked Bankroll in his music. And years later, we learned about the line was actually true about 21. Street justice or coincidence? The streets have their own theories. I mean, what's undeniable is the hypocrisy of 21 Savage now saying "fuck the streets" after this documented involvement in this situation. And I think I can posit that claim very obviously for anybody who has the patience to listen. The irony is stark. 21 Savage now wants to save the streets by saying "fuck the streets." Yet his past actions, mocking Bankroll Fresh in his music after his death, publicly celebrating with No Plug, directly contributed to the culture of violence and disrespect that he now denounces. Bankroll Fresh was actively working to bring peace to Atlanta's hip-hop scene. 21's behavior was quite literally the opposite. Part 5, the core issue. The streets don't need to be bad, man. You know what I mean? Like, the streets don't really need to be that bad. The streets are what we make the streets. That's just exploitation within capitalism at its finest. When the people who've had the rarest of opportunities and the most success off the streets turn their backs on the foundation, saying that the foundation isn't worth it. But here's what makes this moment different. Fuck the streets isn't happening in isolation. It's happening during a massive, unprecedented collapse of physical social infrastructure. Part 6, the 90-year alcohol low. Here's the numbers for you. The alcohol industry is crashing, losing about $830 billion as younger generations stop drinking. Here are the numbers. Only 54% of Americans who are adults drink alcohol in 2025. That's the lowest rate since Gallup began tracking in 1939. The previous low was 55% in 1958. Only 24% of drinkers had a drink in the past 24 hours, a record low. Average consumption is 2.8 drinks per week, the lowest since the mid 1990s. And young adults 18 to 34, only 50% are drinking, down from 72% in the early 2000s. That's nearly a 30% drop in 2 decades among young adults. Economic reality hits different. When we break it down by income, adults making under 40K annually dropped 14 percentage points to 39%. Adults making over 100K annually dropped 13 points to 66%. When a night out costs $200 to $500 and economic uncertainty is high, people are just making hard choices. But it's not about choosing not to drink. It's about what they're choosing instead. Part 7. Bars are actually closing. This isn't just theory. There's physical infrastructure that's literally collapsing. New York City venues closed in 2024 include Lavo, Gold Bar, Bounce Sporting Club, and Catra Lounge. The UK experienced a 26.4 contraction in late night venues since March 2020, a 26.4% contraction, averaging 3 closures per week. The cost crisis. Consumer prices rose 24% between March 2020 and March 25, making going out prohibitively expensive for most people. In my own town, we've seen the closing of Sandusky Crowbar and Broken Egg Cafe, with more bars likely to follow. For bar owners, the math is brutal. When your core demographic, 18 to 35, goes from 72% participation to 50% participation, and the ones that still drink only do it 2.8 times per week instead of daily, your business model collapses. I mean, I'm surprised that every bar isn't gone yet. Part 8. The bed rotting epidemic. What's replacing the streets? The new reality. People have been opening up about something that they've been calling bed rotting. Staying in bed for hours, not to sleep, but to scroll, watch videos, or mentally escape the outside world. A lot of Gen Z says it isn't about being lazy. They describe it as what happens when your brain feels overwhelmed, overstimulated, and exhausted from nonstop pressure. Instead of resting, the body shuts down while the mind keeps scrolling. Experts point out that chronic stress can push the brain into low energy mode, where motivation drops and avoidance feels safer than the effort. The catch? Too much inactivity can actually make the mood, focus, and motivation much worse over time, even if it feels comforting at first. Here's the numbers. 24% of Gen Z admits to bed rotting. 53% of Gen Z regularly doom scrolls. And how we define doom scrolling is 6+ hours of daily usage on social media without any form of content creation. I don't care if all you do is take a picture, write a word. Just don't pick up that motherfucking scroll, guys, please. Think about what this means. When the streets, the physical infrastructure of bars, clubs, corners, community spaces, and houses disappear, they're not being replaced by healthier alternatives. They're being replaced by atomization, isolation, doom scrolling, and bed rot. Part 9. AI colonization. Digital extraction at the industrial scale. The new cultural threat. Non-black people are now making a living off of creating black women and black personalities using AI. I cannot believe I read that sentence. One account got reportedly 2 million followers in less than just 1 month. Just AI generated black women content. As someone who creates original content, watching AI accounts explode overnight while real creators grind for scraps, that's not just frustrating. That's the system working as designed. That's extraction without investment, proper profit without community benefit, and authenticity manufactured at an industrial scale. Even real black creators can't compete with manufactured authenticity when algorithms don't distinguish between real human culture and AI generated simulacra. Understanding simulacra. Simulacra, simulacrum, refers to copies or representations of things that either have no original or whose original has been lost or superseded. In this context, AI generated black personas are simulacra. They represent and present as authentic black culture and identity, but they're manufactured representations by non-black people, disconnected from the lived experience and community that they claim to represent. Once again, that's defining simulacra. What makes this different from previous cultural appropriation? Throughout history, we've seen white musicians profiting from black music, Elvis and rock and roll, white designers profiting from black fashion, the House of Gucci and Louis Vuitton, white influencers profiting from black slang and aesthetics. That Rosalando Dawson woman literally wasn't black, but I mean, we just kind of said, fuck it, and Auntie kept coming to the cookout. But AI colonization is different because it's automated. One person can create infinite content. Number two, it's scalable. 2 million followers in a month. Number three, it's untraceable. It's harder to call out than like a specific person, trying to act black. Number four is displacing real people, not just appropriating, but replacing. And number five, platforms can't or won't distinguish. Algorithms treat AI and humans equally. When you say fuck the streets and physical community infrastructure collapses, this is what fills the void. Fake black content created by non-black people extracting cultural value at an industrial scale, while real black creators struggle to be heard. This is the digital equivalent of Elvis profiting from black music, but now it's automated and at an industrial scale. This is a digital minstrel show. Part 10, the lottery economy, when hustle seems pointless. The Hermes heir story. Unmarried with no children, Hermes heir Nicolas Puch is set to leave his 51-year-old gardener with an $11 billion fortune, along with $5.9 million worth of property. When a gardener can inherit more than entire communities will earn collectively over generations, then I hustle. Why be in the streets? Why network at bars? Why build relationships? The pattern of lottery-style incomes. Let me break down that thought process that went through your head there. Traditional pathways to success. Work hard, network, build relationships, and hustle in the streets, they're being replaced by lottery style outcomes. Number one, inheritance windfalls. Hermes Gardner, boom, $11 million. Number two, AI generated virality, 2 million followers in a month. And, that's not even a real person. Number three, crypto speculation, random coins 100x overnight. Though there are many rug pulls designed to extract money from retail investors. Number four, meme stock explosions, GameStop and AMC. You remember that? You remember when regular people could make money off of the stock market? Number five, random TikTok fame, algorithm lottery. The message becomes clear. Hard work and community investment don't reliably lead to success anymore. It's mostly luck, timing, and being in the right algorithm at the right moment. And this is what makes Fuck the Streets so demoralizing. The streets at least offered a clear, if not dangerous and difficult path. Hustle leads to reputation, leads to opportunity, and that leads to success. Now, just hope that you win a lottery that you probably won't. Part 11, why this hits the black communities the hardest. Historical dependence on informal infrastructure. Black communities always relied more heavily on the streets because informal institutions were discriminatory or exclusionary. Banks wouldn't lend through a process called redlining. Banks would literally draw red lines on maps around black neighborhoods and refuse to provide mortgages or business loans to anyone within those zones. This practice was legal until 1968 and continued informally for decades after, meaning that black people couldn't access traditional capital foundation tools. Employers wouldn't hire. Employment discrimination meant formal job markets were largely closed to black workers, especially for anything beyond manual labor. This forced the creation of alternative economic networks. Schools were under-resourced. Segregation and deliberate defunding meant black children didn't get the educational credentials needed to access formal opportunities, even after segregation ended. So the streets became the alternative economy, a place where you could actually make money, the social safety net, where you got support when formal institutions failed you, the Cultural Innovation Center, where hip hop, fashion, art, and slang were born, and the Community Resilience Network, where people looked out for one another. The third space gap. When mainstream socialization infrastructure collapses, the impact is uneven. White and wealthy communities have alternatives. They have country clubs, professional networking organizations, alumni associations, private social clubs, and exclusive gyms and wellness spaces. Black and poor communities had the streets, the barbershop, the bar, and the church. As bars and churches decline, white and wealthy people still have multiple alternative third spaces. Black and poor people lose only the third spaces. The AI extraction. The AI generated black women with 2 million followers represents the final insult. Not only is the physical community infrastructure being destroyed, but the remaining digital cultural space are being colonized by non-black people using AI to profit from black culture without any benefit flowing back to the black community. When Fuck the Streets comes top, when the most successful product of products of street culture. 21 Savage, G Herbo, Young Thug publicly denounce the streets. They remove aspirational narrative. If they made it from here, so can I, becomes they made it and then said, fuck where they came from. So if I make it, then I say, fuck where I came from. This also delegitimizes survival strategies. The hustles that still work for people on the ground get publicly condemned by the people who use them. This accelerates the disinvestment. If even the success stories say it's not worth it, why anybody else would rationally invest? And this provides no alternative vision. No investment, no programs, no infrastructure, just abandonment. And culturally, they made the streets worse before abandoning them. They glorified the violence, promoted the criminality, profited from the stereotypes, and then said, fuck the streets after crashing out. Part 12, the complete infrastructure collapse. What's being replaced versus what's replacing it. The 5-step pattern. Step 1, digitalization makes a physical presence optional. 2012 to 2020. Smartphones reach critical mass. Social media provides connection without proximity. Physical communities begin dissolving, and you can watch events on live stream instead of attending. Step 2, economic pressure makes physical presence unaffordable. 2020 to 2024. COVID forces closures. Inflation makes going out prohibitively expensive. Young people, especially, can't afford traditional nightlife, and bars and clubs close due to lack of business. Step 3, mental health crisis makes a physical presence unbearable. 2023 to 2025. Chronic stress from economic insecurity and overstimulation from infinite content paired with bed rotting becomes widespread and culturally accepted. Avoidance feels safer than effort. Step 4, successful individuals declare physical infrastructure obsolete. 2024 to 2025. Fuck the streets. Public endorsement of abandonment. No alternative vision offered. No investment in new infrastructure. And this accelerates the collapse that they claim to oppose. Step 5. AI colonizes remaining digital spaces. 2025 plus. Non-Black people create AI Black personas. Extract cultural value at industrial scale. Real people can't compete, and the final displacement is now complete. That's where we are now in 2026. Part 13, the doom scrolling economy versus street economy. What we lost. The street economy operated on value creation, physical goods, services, labor, hustle, and real skills. The value that was captured was individual entrepreneurship, community networks, and a social collective benefit. The distribution was direct transactions, word of mouth, reputation. The gatekeepers was only your reputation, your skills, and your relationships. And your success path was hustle leads to building reputation, leads to creating opportunities, leads to the achievement of success. This was hard, dangerous, and unfair in many ways, but it was legible. You could understand the path, even if it was difficult. What replaced it? The doom scrolling economy. What the doom scrolling economy operates on is value creation, user attention, personal data, algorithmic data, value capture. Platforms take 95%, creators get scraps, and AI takes the rest. Distribution, algorithmic, opaque, manipulable, and unknowable. Gatekeepers, we have platform algorithms, AI bots, and random virality. And the success path is pretty much a random lottery, mostly luck, often fake and AI. When you say fuck the streets, you're telling people to abandon the street economy where they could capture value through hustle, even if limited, for the doom scrolling economy where platforms and AI capture everything while you rot in bed, comparing yourself to impossible to achieve standards. Part 14 on conversational ethics and reading direct quotes. A note on method. Throughout this essay, I've been careful to provide direct quotes without paraphrasing. This matters. What people say matters. You have to retransmit exactly what someone says, and then we work from there to understand the messaging. We can't twist words or reinterpret them to fit our narrative. This is something that I pledge to do and encourage all my readers to adopt. Don't respond until you completely understand. With any situation I deal with anybody I talk to, I'm going to radically listen until I understand. Radically listening means waiting for someone to finish speaking before you start talking, not preparing your responses while they're still talking, actually hearing what they said and not what you expected them to say, and repeating it back to them to ensure that you understood correctly. This is some pretty advanced conversational etiquette, but it's almost a lot more necessary because we live in a time of hot takes without content, quote tweets without reading the full thread, reactions without understanding, and performative disagreement for engagement. Dialectic, the art of reason, conversation, and the pursuit of truth through dialogue. That's what that requires that we actually listen to one another. When Boosie says something, when 21 Savage says something, when Lil Zay Osama says something, we need to hear what they actually said before we respond. This is especially important when discussing the streets because there's so much coded language, so much context-dependent meaning, with so much history embedded in every phrase, that misrepresenting what someone said doesn't just disrespect them, it prevents them from having the real conversation that we need to have. Part 15, understanding key terms. What colonization means in the digital age. When I talk about AI colonizing digital spaces, I'm using that word deliberately. Colonization is the process by which one group takes control of another group's territory, resources, or culture, extracting value while providing little to nothing in return. Historical colonization involved the physical occupation of a territory, the extraction of natural resources, the exploitation of labor, the destruction of indigenous culture, and replacement with colonizer systems. Digital colonization works similarly. AI platforms occupy cultural spaces, social media and content platforms. They extract cultural resources, Black aesthetics, language, music, identity, and then they exploit creative labor, real creators train AI models with their content. They destroy authentic culture. I mean, no human being can compete with AI scale and speed. I got a team of about 17 people who will vouch for me. And this replaces uh, colonization with manufactured version. Like, we have AI black women with 2 million followers. The difference? Digital colonization happens faster, at greater scale, and is harder to resist because it's automated, it's colorblind, algorithms don't see race, you know what I mean? Very convenient. And it's distributed to no single colonizer, so there's no single colonizer to fight. And it's celebrated as innovative. When non-black people create AI black personas and profit massively while real black content creators struggle, that's not just cultural appropriation, that's digital colonization. What parasocial relationships mean? Parasocial relationships are the kind of one-sided relationships where one person invests emotional energy, interest, and time, while the other party, typically a celebrity, an influencer, or a media personality, but sometimes just a pretty girl around that neighborhood. Stop simping, boys. Is completely unaware of the other person's existence. Examples: following an influencer daily, feeling like you know them, but they don't know you exist. Feeling genuine grief when a celebrity dies, even though you've never met them. Defending a YouTuber online as if they're your personal friend, and spending hours watching someone's content and feeling connected to their life. In the context of the streets collapsing, the old model, we had real relationships and physical community, reciprocal, mutual, and accountable. I mean, I say that very generously, but compared to the new model with parasocial relationships or AI, it's one way, performative, and hollow. This is because parasocial relationships feel like connection but provide none of the actual benefits of real community. Support, accountability, mutual aid, and genuine human contact. When the streets, real physical community, are replaced by social media, parasocial relationships, people are more connected than ever, but more isolated and lonely. Part 16, the final synthesis. What fuck the streets actually creates. When you tell people to abandon physical infrastructure without building alternatives, they don't magically find better options. They don't suddenly become healthier. They don't access hidden wealth or opportunities. They just disappear. They disappear into their beds, scrolling through infinite content created by AI, comparing themselves to impossible standards, feeling their motivation drain away, knowing that the effort is pointless, too overwhelmed to engage, too exhausted to resist, trapped in a cycle that makes everything worse. With no commentary to pull them out, physical space is gone, no economic opportunity to motivate them. I mean, it's a lottery economy. You might as well just gamble and play the fucking lottery. No mental health support to stabilize them, fragmented and unaffordable. No physical spaces to gather in, bars are closed, and, the streets are denounced. There's no authentic culture to participate in. You see it just like I do. Everyone that and their mom, they're cool with just like making a AI picture or a little AI video. And there's no viable path forward. Hustling seems pointless. What this actually means, that's what saying fuck the streets creates. That's what turning your back on your brothers who you can't even talk to, who are on a different type of time, creates. That's what a 90-year low in alcohol consumption actually means. Not a health consciousness rate escalation, but isolation and withdrawal from community, from physical community. That's what happens when you destroy infrastructure without providing a replacement. And it hits black communities the hardest because we've always had the least access to alternative infrastructure. We've relied the most heavily on the streets. We're being exploited the most by AI and cultural extraction. We face the highest economic insecurity. The lottery economy seems like it's the only fucking option. And we have the least access to mental health support. Part 17. What should happen? Solutions and hope. Nipsey Hussle. Now, before I get too deep in despair, let me be abundantly clear. This is not inevitable. We can figure this shit out. There are only 4 or 5 kind of irrelevant rappers saying fuck the streets. Honestly, I'm not trying to talk shit about Pooh Shiesty, 21 Savage, or Young Thug, but I mean, like, they're not Honeycomb Brazy or Montana 700 or even Doughboy Cash Out. Like, the game changes. There are alternative models that work in addition to the claim that I just posited. Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace, showed us how it should be done. He made it out of the streets. He invested back in his neighborhood. He built actual businesses in the community, Marathon Clothing Store. He created jobs for local people, shot content, brought people in, like organized daily. Bought the plaza where he used to sell drugs. Provided mentorship and infrastructure, maintained authenticity while building alternatives, and he never said fuck the streets. Nipsey Hussle never said fuck the streets. He said, let's build. Nipsey understood that you don't abandon the streets, you transform them, you invest in them. You build the infrastructure that should have been there in the first fucking place. What 21 Savage should have said, instead of fuck the streets, here's what responsible success sounds like. The streets raised me, and I recognize that the streets are facing systemic destruction right now. Economic divestment hitting our communities, bars and clubs closing, removing third spaces, digital displacement making physical community optional, AI colonization extracting our culture without benefit, and young people are trapped in bed, rotting, and doom scrolling with nothing to do, no path forward. So here's what I'm doing about it personally. I'm investing millions of dollars into community centers. I'm building alternative third spaces that are affordable and accessible, 99.9% of the time free. I'm creating job training programs and entrepreneurship funds. I'm funding youth mentorship initiatives. I'm partnering with local businesses to strengthen and bolster the community economy. I'm supporting real black content creators against AI extraction. And I'm building the next version of community infrastructure. With the streets gone, I mean, at least the ones that we've known of in the past, I'm not just abandoning what's there. Here's my vision for what's replaced them. And here's my investment in making it real. That's accountability, that's leadership, and that's the opposite of fuck the streets. Here's what communities can do. Individual level. Recognize that bed rotting and doom scrolling are symptoms. They're not character flaws. Nobody wants to be depressed and sit in the fucking bed all day. They just don't realize what they're doing. At the individual level, we also need to intentionally create in person connections, even when it's harder. Oh, hold that door open for somebody. Ask them about their day. Say something. Support real black content creators over AI generated content. So like I'm 50-50 on this. Like I don't want to block any AI generated content that's thoughtful, that benefits society. I'm about to cut on the Fat Fellas right now, and like that's 100% AI generated, and that's utilized to like raise the consciousness of black men, and you know make larger black men like more secure emotionally and psychologically. There's good use of uh, black support of black AI generated content, but we need to make sure that it's a human being behind the computer. Call out digital colonization when you see it. Call out digital colonization when you see it. If you see like some white kid saying 6'7" or this, that, or third, you know what I'm saying? Like, call them black. Call them trying to be black adjacent. Call it as you see it. Fucking colonizer. Practice conversational ethics. Listen before responding. And choose physical community over digital isolation whenever possible. At the community level, we create low cost or free third spaces, community centers, or park programs. We organize regular in person gatherings, cookouts, sport leagues, and creative workshops. We build mentorship networks connecting OGs with young people. We start mutual aid networks for economic support. We preserve and document authentic culture before AI extracts it all. And we support Black owned businesses and cultural spaces. At the systemic level, we regulate AI generated content, require disclosure, and we limit extraction. Support policies that make physical spaces affordable, tax incentives for community spaces, investment in mental health infrastructure in Black communities. We address the economic conditions that's driving the lottery economy. I'm not kidding you. I'm 31. I'm an able-bodied Black man. I've applied for 28 jobs. 28 jobs between September and January 2026. Just to see what's happening. And dude, like, there ain't no way to really get out of any hole at this point. God forbid that you're a felon. God forbid that you're trying to like truly rebuild your life. We create pathways to success that aren't based on random virality, and we fund community development that initiates the rebuild of the third spaces. Like once we lay the groundwork for our education, our food, our infrastructure, and our child care, we can go ahead and like revisit, like opening up some bars. You know what I mean? Like we can go ahead, like have a community night, a little poet night, smoke lounge. We can do these things, guys. I'm not saying it's all worthless and doom and gloom. I'm saying this is the path forward. What gives me hope? Despite everything I've laid out, here's the clear signs that things are improving. People are recognizing the problem, the bed rotting discourse. My 7-year-old niece Julianne, she like expressed a discontent with us like sitting around watching tablet all day. The fuck the streets discourse, the backlash and the awareness of AI colonization shows that we're not stupid and we're not passive. The 90-year alcohol low could be redirected, and people already are choosing not to drink. We could channel that energy towards community infrastructure instead of isolation. Intune Productions. Black culture has survived much worse, much worse. We've survived slavery, Jim Crow, mass incarceration, and every form of extraction possible. We are still here. We're still creating. Young people want authentic connection. The bed rotting and the doom scrolling are symptoms of unmet need, not lack of desire for real community. The model exists. Nipsey Hussle showed us it's possible. We need 1,000 more Nipsey Hussles. We just need more people following that path. Shout out to Pierre Coleman. Community resilience is real. When given alternatives, people choose community. The issue isn't desire, it's infrastructure. The conversation is already happening. Essays like this, the backlash against fuck the streets, and the discussions about AI colonization, these are signs of consciousness rather than defeat. The question we face isn't whether the streets were perfect. I mean, they weren't. They were often violent, exploitative, and limiting. The question is, what replaces them? Do we let it be AI extraction, doom scrolling isolation, bed rotting despair, lottery economy hopelessness? You can bet on the color of Miley Cyrus's underwear, complete atomization and digital colonization, or do we build something better? Genuine community infrastructure, economic opportunity based on merit and hustle rather than lottery. Mental health support embedded in community, cultural preservation and authentic creation, physical spaces for human connection, and mentorship and intergenerational knowledge transfer. Fuck the streets offers nothing. Let's build offers everything. Final conclusion. The choice is before us. When 21 Savage said, fuck the streets, he revealed something important. The people who benefited the most from community infrastructure are often sometimes the first to abandon it when they no longer need it personally. But their success depended on that infrastructure existing. Their hustle was possible because of community networks. Their music resonated because of authentic street experiences. Their wealth came from monetizing the very culture that they now denounce. The 90-year low in alcohol consumption, the closing of the bars, the bed rotting epidemic, the AI colonization, and the lottery economy, these aren't separate trends. They're all symptoms of the same collapse. The systemic destruction of physical community infrastructure without meaningful replacement. And it's hitting Black communities the hardest because we had the least access to alternatives and we relied heavily on the streets. And while we're being most exploited by the digital systems that claim to replace the physical community. But here's the thing, we don't have to accept this. The streets aren't bad. The streets are what we make the streets. And right now, we need to make them into something that provides real economic